I stared at the coffin. White. Too small. And all I could think was, why didn't you say anything? We're working hard to reach our first 1,000 subscribers. Every click matters more than you think. If you haven't subscribed yet, do it now. Don't miss what really matters. Everyone came dressed in black. The church was warm, but inside me, everything was freezing. I sat in the front row, stared straight ahead, and felt no tears, no pain. Just emptiness. The kind that doesn't scream, it suffocates. She was always quiet, not silent, but peaceful. When we first met, she listened. When we argued, she never interrupted. When she was hurting, she'd say, "Everything's fine. I'm just tired." I thought, here she is, a woman without drama. Wise, patient. I was proud of this. I'd tell my friends, she's so easy to be with. She never creates any drama. And it was true. She never created drama. She just buried it inside herself. The first warning sign was barely noticeable. We were walking through the park. She was quieter than usual. "Everything okay?" I asked. "Yeah, just thinking." I nodded and kept walking. She followed behind me, quiet, withdrawn, and I noticed nothing. Then came the months, when she became slightly less alive, laughed softer, answered shorter, looked away more often than into my eyes. I thought, work, fall weather, hormones. I explained everything away, everything except the truth. One day I came home. She was sitting on the bedroom floor, in the dark, her face like a mask. "Are you okay?" "Yes, just a little tired." I came over, hugged her, and she froze. No response, no reaction. And me? I didn't ask a single question. Just thought, she'll get through it. The last evening, we were having dinner. I was talking about work, about a new client. She listened, nodded. No smile, no words. "Are you even here?" I said, already irritated. "Yes, I'm just thinking, always thinking. Maybe start talking instead of just thinking?" Then she looked at me, slowly, without anger, without reproach, just, very quietly. "Okay, I'll think about it." The next morning she left. Left a note. 2 sentences. I tried. "Sorry I couldn't speak up in time. I didn't understand." I called, texted. She didn't answer. Then came the hospital. Then, unanswered questions. Now here, the church. The coffin. Flowers. And silence. The same silence that had been between us for months. I didn't hear her, because she was silent. And she was silent, because she no longer believed that if she spoke, I would listen. After the funeral, there was a strange feeling that everything was continuing as usual. The weather, traffic, people, the world hadn't stopped. And I stood in the middle of the street thinking, how can it keep going when she's gone? I came home, put the key in the door, and suddenly realized, there was nowhere left to hurry to. No her, no words, no chances. I slowly walked into the room. Everything was the same as before. A book on the nightstand. A mug that said, "I feel too much." A warm blanket on the chair. And her notebook. Thick, with a gray cover. I opened it by accident. And read the first sentence. "He doesn't know how tired I am of staying silent." It was her diary. In it, everything she never said out loud. Entry from March 3rd. Today he interrupted me for the 3rd time with, "Here you go again." I wasn't starting anything. I was just trying to explain what I felt. But I guess I don't know how to do it right. Entry from May 14th. I'd like to tell him that everything inside is trembling. But I'm afraid he'll roll his eyes. Sometimes I feel like I'm disappearing next to him. But if I say that, it'll be too dramatic. Entry from July 28th. We were at the cottage. He was laughing, and I was silent. He thought I was just in a thoughtful mood. But I was saying goodbye. Slowly, without words. I read these lines and could almost hear her voice. Not the one that spoke aloud, but the one she never dared to let out. And there had been moments. Signals. Signs. I remembered how she'd ask for a hug, and a second later say, "Oh, forget it." That's silly. How she'd go silent mid-sentence. How she'd flinch at loud words. And me? I thought, everyone has their moments. She'll get through it. She was getting through it. Every day. She stayed silent, because she believed that if she started talking, I'd turn away. And maybe she was right. I didn't know how to listen. I only heard the loud things. But she spoke, quietly. I reached the last entry. Dated a week before her death. He'd go through fire for me. but not into my feelings. He'd save me if I were drowning, but wouldn't notice if I just stopped breathing. I'm not angry, I'm just tired of living on pause. Tired of staying silent and speaking. It's too late now. For the first time through all of this, I wanted to scream. As if the notebook were a mirror. And in it, me. Not a monster, not a villain, just inattentive, deaf, tired. I put the notebook on my lap, closed my eyes, and said out loud, "Why didn't you say anything? Why?" And I heard the answer. Not her voice, but my own thought, because she'd already tried 100 times. Just not with words. I started noticing strange things. After the funeral, the silence became harsher. Not just, "She's gone," but as if the very air had left the apartment. I caught myself doing automatic things. 2 cups of coffee, 2 towels, 2 pillows on the bed. Body memory. It still believed she was nearby. I'd turn on a TV show we used to watch together, and freeze at the moment when she usually started laughing. But now, silence. No ha, no glance to the side. Nothing. And this silence was worse than any tears. Because in it, nothing could be fixed. On the 3rd day after the funeral, I found her phone. It was dead. I turned it on. Drafts, folder. And there, a voice message. Unsent. I was shaking when I pressed play. Her voice. I don't know why I'm recording this. Probably just to say it once. I'm in pain, not because you yell, but because you don't hear. I'm next to you every day. But I feel lonely. I don't blame you. It's just, if someday I'm not here. No, I didn't leave that day. I'd been leaving for a long time. Just silently. This file knocked me down. I fell back on the couch, closed my eyes, and only one thought echoed in my head. What if she had sent it? And almost immediately, a second thought. What if I had heard it? The next morning I opened our old photo album. Pictures, trips. She's holding my hand. She's laughing. She's looking at the camera. And only now I understood. In all these photos, there was more loneliness than I'd seen then. You know what's scariest? You live with someone, share a bed, food, plans, and think, we're together. And then you find out, they've been alone inside for a long time. They're tired. They're burned out. They're leaving, every day, inch by inch. And you don't even notice. I went out on the balcony, breathed the air, and for the first time through all of this, I said out loud, "I'm sorry. I didn't hear you, but you tried. Just, in your own way." 2 weeks passed. I lived like in a fog. Every morning I'd wake up and for a second forget. Think she was just in the kitchen. That she'd call me soon. That it was just a dream. Then I'd remember. And it was like someone pressed a fist against my chest again. I started hearing her voice in things. A phrase she once said would pop into my head when I poured water in the kettle, when I dried my hands, when I opened the window. And every little thing now sounded like a scream. Just delayed. I found an old letter of hers. She'd written it once for a card but never gave it. "You're my home. But in this home, I too often feel like a guest." I sat on the floor, read this, and understood. She was with me, but didn't feel seen. And I always thought, the main thing is no scandals. No tears. No hysterics. I valued her silence. But it wasn't peace. It was exhaustion. It was, I already tried. Now I'll just live beside you. I recorded a voice message. To myself. You were next to a miracle. And didn't even look at it carefully. You thought love was when everything's comfortable. But she was screaming inside. Until she went quiet forever. Sometimes I think, what if back then I had said, don't withdraw into yourself. Tell me, I'm listening. What if I hadn't tried to be calm, but had been real? A person who feels, not just someone who controls the situation. But now, it's too late. She won't speak, not out loud, not in a message, not with a look. Only silence remains, teaching me to listen. Too late. I went to her spot in the park. That same bench where she loved to sit alone. Sometimes for hours. I used to get angry. Why do you always go there alone? And she'd say, because only there can I be myself. I sat down, closed my eyes, and imagined she was next to me. Say something, anything, I whispered. There was no answer, but I understood. She was always speaking. I just never really listened. People don't leave when they die. They leave when they lose their last hope of being heard. And the scariest part, you don't know which moment was the last. where you could have said, I'm here. Speak, I'm listening, but stayed silent. Today I got an email. To an old address I hardly use. From her friend. Subject line, just. Found this. I think you need to see it. I opened the file. PDF. Title. Never said. It was a letter. Unsent. But, for me, the letter, her voice, I'm not writing to blame. I'm writing because I don't know how to speak anymore. Every time I started, you'd freeze up. You didn't yell, didn't get offended, just shut down. And in that silence, I got lost. I didn't need solutions. I needed just for you to be there. Without, why do you feel this way? Without, you're complicating everything again. Without, not now. Just be there. Just ask. What do you want to tell me? And not interrupt. I tried. God knows how I tried. But one day I realized, I'm not talking to you, I'm talking to emptiness. And then I chose to be silent. Not from pride, but because it was already pointless to speak if no one was listening. I read this and couldn't breathe. Every line, like it was cutting from inside. And the scariest part, I couldn't remember a single moment where she said this out loud. And yet, she was saying it. Just, differently. And I didn't hear. I saved the letter, renamed it, Last Chance, and made it my phone wallpaper. So I'd never forget again that silence is also a scream. Just a quiet one. Since then, I listen to people differently. When someone says, everything's fine, I ask, and if it's not fine, will you tell me? And I add, I'll definitely hear you. She was silent, but now, through her, I hear many others. She didn't scream. She didn't break dishes. Didn't cry in the hallway at night. She just stayed silent. And every day that silence was saying, I'm here. I'm hurting. Hear me. But we often only hear the loud things. We react to scandals, not to a look, a pause, a phrase, everything's fine. Sometimes the strongest emotions live in the quietest people. And if you haven't learned to listen to silence, you might one day be left with quietness where no one is anymore. Almost isn't just an almost story. It's what would have been if we had looked more carefully, listened deeper, and hadn't waited until it was too late. Subscribe if you want to hear people before they leave, and before it's too late to hear yourself.